Hello, I am Daisy, your hostess. Welcome to my channel. In this video, we move on to the next chapter of the book titled The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. The previous chapter was titled How Your Subconscious Removes Mental Blocks. And I tell you, that's a good chapter to check out if you haven't done so yet. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. I do have a book playlist, so you can, peruse through that and catch the playlist from here and catch those other chapters. And to you, those who have subscribed, thank you so much for coming back here and hanging out with me. Hopefully you're enjoying this. I know that some of you have left me some positive comments, and I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you. And what can I say? The solution lies within the problem. Have you heard of that? The answer to the question lies in the question. But you know what? It's like the mind that created the problem can't be the one to solve it. So sometimes we have what I say is what is it called? Like blinders, right? Like they put on the horses, and we can't see to the side. We're just so focused, and I remember the word I wanted to say, tunnel vision. We just see this. We can't for the life of us see anything but what we see. And how do we use our subconscious mind to remove the blocks? But I have to tell you, the subconscious mind knows everything. Don't take it from me. Talk to these people that have done these have been under some trance or hypnotist where they put them under and they bring them into like some past incident in their life, and they're picking up stuff that in their conscious mind they've totally forgotten, but somewhere in this vast whatever this is it's there to the minutest detail. And Dr. Joseph Murphy says, do you have something that's really blocking, something that you can't get to? He says all you have to do is believe that infinite intelligence which is within you has that information now, and all you have to do is make it available to me. And has it happened to you that maybe you walk away and when you come back it's like, oh my god, yeah, right in front of my nose, but why couldn't you see it before? But somehow you just had to kind of shake yourself up a little bit, and it all came back. Everything seemed better or clearer. You had the answers. And even sometimes, have you said this? I know that I have. Oh, let me just walk away from this. I know it's going to come to me. Or let me sleep on it. It's going to come to me. And somehow, in between the moment that you say it and the time you come back, it comes to you, right? Dr. Joseph Murphy says that, we are, all the habits that we built is what makes us, And so if our habits are of detriment, then we need to begin breaking that pattern. And we can do it by developing new habits in its place. So, just that repetition of a new habit will begin to eliminate the old one. It's that simple. It's just, practicing is that the challenge. And when it comes to mental blocks, I believe that, we have to ask ourselves, how badly do we want what's on the other side? I think that my own experience from watching and living life and having had the opportunity to be in the world of service, you're exposed to other people a lot more than normal, right? I've come to learn that some of the mental blocks and the situations that people have in their lives, all of us, even myself still, and I'm working on it. And I'm really happy that I have this channel that I can share these with you and share my thoughts as well. And then eventually go back and watch my own growth, right? Anyway, that these mental blocks, some of us have it as crutches because we're either afraid of what we're going to become, we're afraid of what we're going to lose, and we just have to overcome that. We are our worst enemy. I truly believe that. And many of us are just afraid, and others, we're just ignorant. And many of us are living lives of quiet desperation for a couple reasons, and mostly because we don't want to face our problems. It's easier to blame everybody else. It's easier to complain about a situation that you trying to say you don't have any control over, but then when you make the choice, there's so much control. It's amazing how much control you really have. once you make a decision. And the author suggests that one way to remove a mental block is to envision what it is that you want. Like literally, if this is something where you feel like you're blocked here, get yourself out of the formula for a little bit. I would say that. He didn't say that, but I would. And then just kind of, sometimes have you ever seen how easy it is for you to give advice to someone, but you can't take the same advice for yourself? Why that would actually work, I think, if you try to pretend that you're giving yourself advice. So put yourself out of the formula, or maybe have an out of body and give yourself advice. All of a sudden you're like, how embarrassing this is, there is a way. You just have to be brave and literally seek that ideal. And that's what the author said, to seek the ideal and make that the prime program, however that might be, whether through visualization, through imagination, through creativity, through vision boards, whatever that may be, but something that you begin to impress in your mind what it would be if that block was not there, whatever you're creating as a block. What would that look like for you? What the whole new scenario would be? And just put yourself out there into that. Maybe go through a time machine. If all of this wasn't a problem, what would that look like? It could be a game that you play with your mind. What I understand from not only reading this book, but some of the other books that are here on the channel, is that we don't need to understand the mechanics. Oh, sure, we could get bogged down in the science of it, but ever since Jesus in the Bible, Buddha and others sharing with us all these techniques, so it's not just now. I mean, we're talking years, right? And the science, has caught up now to tell us, this does work. That's what this whole branch of psychology is about, right? And so when we look at that, then we just say, well, and the thing is that even this author and others have given us examples of people that have used this without questioning the science, but like Jesus said, just a little faith as big as the, mustard seed. That's all we need. And the thing that I've learned, that through demonstrating the faith by doing something and then watching it really work, you begin to create like that muscle memory. But I don't call it muscle memory, I call it the subconscious memory. Like, whoa. And you did it once, you can do it again. I am sure you have had that happen, that you've had something supernatural intervene in your life. And it just happened the way that you thought it would happen. Maybe not exactly, the same package, but that issue got resolved, that bill got paid, that job came through, that closing happened, that contract, you could tell me stories and I'll be like, yeah, so why are we doubting that this next one is going to happen? And that's what I say, that's what it's all about. It's believing in things that have not come through yet. Just because the inventor sees it in his mind doesn't mean that sometime in the distant future it's not going to happen for humanity. It will. Today, I'm communicating to you. I'm coming to you like I'm at just a few inches from you? Not in the flesh, but I am there. I mean, heck, Elvis still lives on. His music is still filling the space. And he's still here through his music. Imagine that. The voice was being able to be captured, and now digital. Before it was on a long play, right? Then on one of these little tapes, and now it's all digital. And these are things that are happening. So in that sense, we can overcome whatever blocks we have. We just have to believe, and we have to practice and implement some of these techniques. Like, what do we have to lose? You have nothing to lose. Just sit down, meditate, visualize it for a few minutes. I mean, and it's up to you. How bad do you want it? And I know this because I've had this proof in my life with my health. I was told twice that I had cancer, one of the throat, one of my breast, but I remained steadfast in the picture of perfect health. And, well, it didn't resolve itself overnight. Like with my breast, it took 4 years. But I did not, reach out for medical intervention. I just refused that. And it took its time, but the lumps disappeared. And call it a miracle. But faith is a powerful tool, and I believe that. And I believe in doctors, and I believe in medicine. At that moment, it wasn't for me, it wasn't for me. But I could tell you that it took 4 years, and I practiced seeing myself healthy, and I refused anyone not seeing that picture of health for me, I just negated it. And recently my husband was going through a legal battle for over a year, and I prayed. My mom joined me in prayers for a whole year, and I kept seeing the positive picture of this being resolved. And let me just tell you, not only was it resolved, it was way better. There was nothing about innocence. This was like, this whole thing was dropped. And it's just, the truth will set you free. And if I felt like this amazing light and was in that courtroom, and the battle was not there in the courtroom, I felt that the battle was somewhere else. And I remember, not that day, but I just remembered that throughout the whole experience, I said, we're going to celebrate this, and we're going to go out, and we're going to just talk about it in the most positive way. And that's exactly what happened. It was just amazing. So work on it, because we do have the power to impress into the subconscious what we do want, to the point that we can make it override a system. But I do believe that there's got to be one little part, that it's knowing that it is the outcome of whatever you want must be good for everyone included. No harm, just goodness for all mankind, because that what you wish for yourself, will bless others. That's something he said in, I think, a couple chapters away. But with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next chapter. I do want to hear if you've had anything in your life that was a mental block and that you were able to overcome it. Share that with me. I'd love to know what that was. And did you maintain a steadfast vision of that positive outcome? And what technique did you use to remove that block? Anyway, I'd love to know. Let's flip the page to the next chapter. The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. Chapter 19, How to Use Your Subconscious Mind to Remove Fear. One of our students told me that he was invited to speak at a banquet. He said he was panic-stricken at the thought of speaking before 1,000 people. He overcame his fear this way. For several nights, he sat down in an armchair for about 5 minutes and said to himself slowly, quietly, and positively, I am going to master this fear. I am overcoming it now. I speak with poise and confidence. I am relaxed and at ease. He operated a definite law of mind and overcame his fear. The subconscious mind is amenable to suggestion and is controlled by suggestion. When you still your mind and relax, the thoughts of your conscious mind sink down into the subconscious through a process similar to osmosis, whereby fluids separated by a porous membrane intermingle. As these positive seeds or thoughts sink into the subconscious area, they grow after their kind, and you become poised, serene, and calm. Man's greatest enemy. It is said that fear is man's greatest enemy. Fear is behind failure, sickness, and poor human relations. Millions of people are afraid of the past, the future, old age, insanity, and death. Fear is a thought in your mind, and you are afraid of your own thoughts. A little boy can be paralyzed with fear when he is told there is a boogeyman under his bed who is going to take him away. When his father turns on the light and shows him there is no boogeyman, he is freed from fear. The fear in the mind of the boy was as real as if there really was a boogeyman there. He was healed of a false thought in his mind. The thing he feared did not exist. Likewise, most of your fears have no reality. They are merely a conglomeration of sinister shadows, and shadows have no reality. Do the thing you fear. Ralph Waldo Emerson, philosopher and poet, said, "Do the thing you are afraid to do, and the death of fear is certain." There was a time when the writer of this chapter was filled with unutterable fear when standing before an audience. The way I overcame it was to stand before the audience, do the thing I was afraid to do, and the death of fear was certain. When you affirm positively that you are going to master your fears, and you come to a definite decision in your conscious mind, you release the power of the subconscious, which flows in response to the nature of your thought. Banishing stage fright. A young lady was invited to an audition. She had been looking forward to the interview. However, on 3 previous occasions, she had failed miserably due to stage fright. She possessed a very good voice, but she was certain that when the time came for her to sing, she would be seized with stage fright. The subconscious mind takes your fears as a request, proceeds to manifest them, and brings them into your experience. On 3 previous auditions, she sang wrong notes, and she finally broke down and cried. The cause, as previously outlined, was an involuntary autosuggestion, i.e., a silent fear thought emotionalized and subjectified. She overcame it by the following technique. 3 times a day, she isolated herself in a room. She sat down comfortably in an armchair, relaxed her body, and closed her eyes. She stilled her mind and body to the best of her ability. Physical inertia favors passivity and renders the mind more receptive to suggestion. She counteracted the fear suggestion by its converse, saying to herself, "I sing beautifully. I am poised, serene, confident, and calm." She repeated the words slowly, quietly, and with feeling from 5 to 10 times at each sitting. She had 3 such sittings every day and 1 immediately prior to sleep at night. At the end of a week, she was completely poised and confident and gave a definitely outstanding audition. Carry out the above procedure, and the death of fear is certain. Fear of failure. Occasionally, young men from the local university come to see me, as well as school teachers, who often seem to suffer from suggestive amnesia at examinations. The complaint is always the same. I know the answers after the examination is over, but I can't remember the answers during the examination. The idea, which realizes itself, is the one to which we invariably give concentrated attention. I find that each one is obsessed with the idea of failure. Fear is behind the temporary amnesia, and it is the cause of the whole experience. One young medical student was the most brilliant person in his class, yet he found himself failing to answer simple questions at the time of written or oral examinations. I explained to him that the reason was he had been worrying and was fearful for several days previous to the examination. These negative thoughts became charged with fear. Thoughts enveloped in the powerful emotion of fear are realized in the subconscious mind. In other words, this young man was requesting his subconscious mind to see to it that he failed, and that is exactly what it did. On the day of the examination, he found himself stricken with what is called, in psychological circles, suggestive amnesia. How he overcame the fear. He learned that his subconscious mind was the storehouse of memory and that it had a perfect record of all he had heard and read during his medical training. Moreover, he learned that the subconscious mind was responsive and reciprocal. The way to be en rapport with it was to be relaxed, peaceful, and confident. Every night and morning, he began to imagine his mother congratulating him on his wonderful record. He would hold on an imaginary letter from her in his hand. As he began to contemplate the happy result, he called forth a corresponding or reciprocal response or reaction in himself. The all-wise and omnipotent power of the subconscious took over, dictated, and directed his conscious mind accordingly. He imagined the end, thereby willing the means to the realization of the end. Following this procedure, he had no trouble passing subsequent examinations. In other words, the subjective wisdom took over, compelling him to give an excellent account of himself. Fear of water, mountains, closed places, etc. There are many people who are afraid to go into an elevator, climb mountains, or even swim in the water. It may well be that the individual had unpleasant experiences in the water in his youth, such as having been thrown forcibly into water without being able to swim. He might have been forcibly detained in an elevator, which failed to function properly, causing resultant fear of closed places. I had an experience when I was about 10 years of age. I accidentally fell into a pool and went down 3 times. I can still remember the dark water engulfing my head and my gasping for air until another boy pulled me out at the last moment. This experience sank into my subconscious mind, and for years I feared the water. An elderly psychologist said to me, "Go down to the swimming pool, look at the water, and say out loud in strong tones, 'I'm going to master you. I can dominate you.' Then go into the water, take lessons, and overcome it." This I did, and I mastered the water. Do not permit water to master you. Remember, you are the master of the water. When I assumed a new attitude of mind, the omnipotent power of the subconscious responded, giving me strength, faith, and confidence, and enabling me to overcome my fear. Master technique for overcoming any particular fear. The following is a process and technique for overcoming the fear which I teach from the platform. It works like a charm. Try it. Suppose you are afraid of the water, a mountain, an interview, an audition, or you fear closed places. If you are afraid of swimming, begin now to sit still for 5 or 10 minutes 3 or 4 times a day and imagine you are swimming. Actually, you are swimming in your mind. It is a subjective experience. Mentally, you have projected yourself into the water. You feel the chill of the water and the movement of your arms and legs. It is all real, vivid, and a joyous activity of the mind. It is not idle daydreaming, for you know that what you are experiencing in your imagination will be developed in your subconscious mind. Then you will be compelled to express the image and likeness of the picture you impressed on your deeper mind. This is the law of the subconscious. You could apply the same technique if you're afraid of mountains or high places. Imagine you're climbing the mountain. Feel the reality of it all. Enjoy the scenery, knowing that as you continue to do this mentally, you will do it physically with ease and comfort. He blessed the elevator. I knew an executive of a large corporation who was terrified to ride in an elevator. He would walk up 5 flights of stairs to his office every morning. He said that he began to bless the elevator every night and several times a day. The elevator in our building is a wonderful idea. It came out of the universal mind. It is a boon and a blessing to all our employees. It gives wonderful service. It operates in divine order. I ride in it peace and joy. I remain silent now while the currents of life, love, and understanding flow through the patterns of my thought. In my imagination, I am now in the elevator and I step out into my office. The elevator is full of our employees. I talk to them and they are friendly, joyous, and free. It is a wonderful experience of freedom, faith, and confidence. I give thanks. He continued this prayer for about 10 days, and on the 11th day, he walked into the elevator with other members of the organization and felt completely free. Normal and abnormal fear. Man is born only with two fears, the fear of falling and the fear of noise. These are a sort of alarm system given you by nature as a means of self-preservation. Normal fear is good. You hear an automobile coming down the road and you step aside to survive. The momentary fear of being run over is overcome by your action. All other fears were given to you by parents, relatives, teachers, and all those who influenced your early years. Abnormal fear. Abnormal fear takes place when man lets his imagination run riot. I knew a woman who was invited to go on a trip around the world by plane. She began to cut out of the newspapers all reports of airplane catastrophes. She pictured herself going down in the ocean, being drowned, etc. This is abnormal fear. Had she persisted in this, she would undoubtedly have attracted what she feared most. Another example of abnormal fear is that of a businessman in New York who was very prosperous and successful. He had his own private mental motion picture of which he was the director. He would run this mental movie of failure, bankruptcy, empty shelves, and no bank balance until he sank into a deep depression. He refused to stop his morbid imagery and kept reminding his wife that this can't last. There will be a recession. I feel sure we will go bankrupt, etc. His wife told me that he finally did go into bankruptcy, and all the things he imagined and feared came to pass. The things he feared did not exist, but he brought them to pass by constantly fearing, believing, and expecting financial disaster. Job said, "The thing I feared has come upon me." There are people who are afraid that something terrible will happen to their children and that some dread catastrophe will befall them. When they read about an epidemic or rare disease, they live in fear that they will catch it, and some imagine they have the disease already. All this is abnormal fear. The answer to abnormal fear. Move mentally to the opposite. To stay at the extreme of fear is stagnation plus mental and physical deterioration. When fear arises, there immediately comes with it a desire for something opposite to the thing feared. Place your attention on the thing immediately desired. Get absorbed and engrossed in your desire, knowing that the subjective always overturns the objective. This attitude will give you confidence and lift your spirits. The infinite power of your subconscious mind is moving on your behalf, and it cannot fail. Therefore, peace and assurance are yours. Examine your fears. The president of a large organization told me that when he was a salesman, he used to walk around the block 5 or 6 times before he called on a customer. The sales manager came along one day and said to him, "Don't be afraid of the boogeyman behind the door. There is no boogeyman. It is a false belief." The manager told him that whenever he looked at his own fears, he stared them in the face and stood up to them, looking them straight in the eye. Then they faded and shrank into insignificance. He landed in the jungle. A chaplain told me of his experiences in the Second World War. He had to parachute from a damaged plane and land in the jungle. He said he was frightened, but he knew there were two kinds of fear, normal and abnormal, which we have previously pointed out. He decided to do something about the fear immediately and began to talk to himself, saying, "John, you can't surrender to your fear. Your fear is a desire for safety and security and a way out." He began to claim infinite intelligence which guides the planets in their courses is now leading and guiding me out of this jungle. He kept saying this out loud to himself for 10 minutes or more. Then, he added, something began to stir inside me. A mood of confidence began to seize me, and I began to walk. After a few days, I miraculously came out of the jungle and was picked up by a rescue plane. His changed mental attitude saved him. His confidence and trust in the subjective wisdom and power within him was the solution to his problem. He said, "Had I begun to bemoan my fate and indulge my fears, I would have succumbed to the monster fear and probably would have died of fear and starvation." He dismissed himself. A general manager of an organization told me that for 3 years he feared he would lose his position. He was always imagining failure. The thing he feared did not exist, save as a morbid and anxious thought in his own mind. His vivid imagination dramatized the loss of his job until he became nervous and neurotic. Finally, he was asked to resign. Actually, he dismissed himself. His constant negative imagery and fear suggestions to his subconscious mind caused the latter to respond and react accordingly. It caused him to make mistakes and foolish decisions, which resulted in his failure as a general manager. His dismissal would never have happened if he had immediately moved to the opposite in his mind. They plotted against him. During a recent world lecture tour, I had a 2-hour conversation with a prominent government official. He had a deep sense of inner peace and serenity. He said that all the abuse he receives politically from newspapers and the opposition party never disturb him. His practice is to sit still for 15 minutes in the morning and realize that in the center of himself is a deep, still ocean of peace. Meditating in this way, he generates tremendous power which overcomes all manner of difficulties and fears. Sometime previously, a colleague called him at midnight and told him a group of people were plotting against him. This is what he said to his colleague: "I'm going to sleep now in perfect peace. You can discuss it with me at 10 o'clock in the morning tomorrow." He said to me, "I know that no negative thought can ever manifest except I emotionalize the thought and accept it mentally. I refuse to entertain their suggestion of fear, therefore no harm can come to me." Notice how calm he was, how cool, how peaceful. He did not start getting excited, tearing his hair, or wringing his hands. At his center, he found the still water and inner peace, and there was a great calm. Deliver yourself from all your fears. Use this perfect formula for casting out fear. I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and delivered me from all my fears. From the book of Psalm, chapter 34, verse 4. The Lord is an ancient word meaning law, the power of your subconscious mind. Learn the wonders of your subconscious and how it works and functions. Master the techniques given to you in this chapter. Put them into practice now, today. Your subconscious will respond, and you will be free of all fears. I sought the Lord, and he heard me and delivered me from all my fears. Step this way to freedom from fear. 1. Do the thing you are afraid to do, and the death of fear is certain. Say to yourself and mean it, I am going to master this fear, and you will. 2. Fear is a negative thought in your mind. Supplant it with a constructive thought. Fear has killed millions. Confidence is greater than fear. Nothing is more powerful than faith in God and the good. 3. Fear is man's greatest enemy. It is behind failure, sickness, and bad human relations. Love casts out fear. Love is an emotional attachment to the good things of life. Fall in love with honesty, integrity, goodwill, justice, and success. Live in the joyous expectancy of the best, and invariably the best will come to you. 4. Counteract the fear suggestion with the opposite, such as, I sing beautifully, I am poised, serene, and calm. It will pay fabulous dividends. 5. Fear is behind amnesia at oral and written examination time. You can overcome this by affirming frequently, I have a perfect memory for everything I need to know. Or you can imagine a friend congratulating you on your brilliant success on the examination. Persevere and you will win. 6. If you are afraid to cross water, swim. In your imagination, swim freely, joyously. Project yourself into the water mentally. Feel the chill and thrill of swimming across the pool. Make it vivid. As you do this subjectively, you will be compelled to go into the water and conquer it. This is the law of your mind. 7. If you are afraid of closed places such as elevators, lecture halls, etc., mentally ride in an elevator, blessing all its parts and functions. You will be amazed how quickly the fear will be dissipated. 8. You were born with only 2 fears, the fear of falling and the fear of noise. All your other fears were acquired. Get rid of them. 9. Normal fear is good. Abnormal fear is very bad and destructive. To constantly indulge in fear thoughts results in abnormal fear, obsessions, and complexes. To fear something persistently causes a sense of panic and terror. 10. You can overcome abnormal fear when you know the power of your subconscious mind can change conditions and bring to pass the cherished desires of your heart. Give your immediate attention and devotion to your desire, which is the opposite of your fear. This is the love that casts out fear. 11. If you are afraid of failure, give attention to success. If you are afraid of sickness, dwell on your perfect health. If you are afraid of an accident, dwell on the guidance and protection of God. If you're afraid of death, dwell on eternal life. God is life, and that is your life now. 12. The great law of substitution is the answer to fear. Whatever you fear has its solution in the form of your desire. If you are sick, you desire health. If you are in the prison of fear, you desire freedom. Expect the good, mentally concentrate on the good, and know that your subconscious mind answers you always. It never fails. 13. The things you fear do not really exist except as thoughts in your mind. Thoughts are creative. This is why Job said, "The thing I feared has come upon me." Think good, and good follows. 14. Look at your fears. Hold them up to the light of reason. Learn to laugh at your fears. That is the best medicine. 15. Nothing can disturb you but your own thought. The suggestions, statements, or threats of other persons have no power. The power is within you, and when your thoughts are focused on that which is good, then God's power is with your thoughts of good. There's only one creative power, and it moves as harmony. There are no divisions of quarrels in it. Its source is love. This is why God's power is with your thoughts of good. End of chapter. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's head over to the next video as we continue on with the book titled The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy.